Test, test. Can y'all hear me? Yes, good. Well, welcome. Good afternoon. For coming to the Classic Center Arena Public Input Session number 3. It's good to have you here. Just by a show of hands, people came to session number 1. How many people came to session 2? And how many out there, this is your first session? Yay, we're so glad you're here. Thank you. My name is Catherine Bennett, and I'll serve as your moderator for this evening. Our audience is here at the Classic Center, and we also have folks joining us live through the live stream. So we welcome all those who are live streaming with us, and we also welcome those who are here in our presence. If you all would do me a favor, do us all a favor, and put your phones on silent, that would be great. Try to just have one person speak at a time, and that's been working beautifully over the sessions. And we'd like to hold the questions till the end. The speakers all have their parts down quickly. We'll go through the panel, and then we'd love to hear from you. So if questions come up during the presentations, please jot them down, save them, and then I'll be coming around the last end of the session to get all the questions, comments, and concerns that you have. And questions can be submitted by those who are connected to us live stream, and we will ask those also. This session is live streamed, it's recorded, and it will be available on that Classic Center website. The purpose of this session is for the public to have an opportunity to speak to the architects, the project managers, the executive director of the Classic Center, and to be part of the design project and to help the team understand what issues are important to the community. And we're so appreciative that you're here. We'll go over the agenda shortly. I want to introduce you to the panel that's here. If you'll raise your hand when I call your name, Chuck Hull. Chuck Hull is the president of Smallwood, a multidisciplinary design firm providing architectural, interior, landscape, and graphic design for a variety of commercial and institution project types. Smallwood is a worldwide practice with offices in Atlanta and Singapore. Chuck is a registered architect, and his primary career focus is design. He was the lead designer for the expansion of the Classic Center several years ago. How many of you were here for that too? Yes? Good. He has a great interest in architectural history and has designed many traditional buildings in a variety of historical styles. Then we have Don Deathless. He is the Sports, Recreation, Entertainment Global Practice Leader Principal. As Sports, Recreation, and Entertainment Global Practice Leader of Perkins and Will. That is Perkins and Will. Don has built a reputation as one of the nation's premier designers of the most successful, cost-effective, and award-winning arenas and sports facilities, mixed-use entertainment, destination districts in the nation. He prides himself on his ability to listen and puts the wants and needs of his clients and community ahead of all other project criteria. Paul Kramer, to my left, has led the Classic Center for over 25 years. He is a CEO and president of the Classic Center. In 1995, Paul worked with the Classic Center Authority and local community in Athens to oversee the development and construction of the Classic Center. To date, the Classic Center is a 350,000 square foot meeting and convention facility with a 2,100 and plus seat performing arts theater. Glad to have Paul with us. Marcus Vess is representing SPLOST from Athens-Clarke County. Marcus' career spans nearly 3 decades where he spent time in planning, design, and construction of facilities improvement projects. He is an experienced director of large-scale capital projects and programs and is credited with delivering projects with a combined value of more than $1 billion. His unique understanding of the challenges our clients face stems from his time serving on the campus planning staffs at Emory University, Georgia State, and the University of North Carolina at Asheville. He was instrumental in the development of campus master plans and the management of various design and construction projects. First on our panel today is Fred Tull, to my right. Fred is a pre-construction service manager for GE Dunn. He has over 15 years of experience working in the construction industry after graduating from Georgia Tech in 2004. He has spent the last 12 years in pre-construction and estimating in projects ranging from education to healthcare to data centers. In the last 5 years, Fred has completed multiple sports projects such as the Georgia Tech Russ Chandler Stadium renovation, the Georgia State Turner Field renovation, and he manages successful planning and coordination of projects prior to construction. And to his right, we have Lee Jarbo. She is Vice President and Senior Client Solutions Director for GE Dunn Construction, focusing on client experience and marketing strategy for the Atlanta office. She has served several roles on the National and Regional Council of the Society for College and University Planning. She is the past chair of Spike Studio, a nonprofit whose mission is to mentor, educate, and develop creative abilities in youth to promote greater diversity in the architecture, engineering, and construction professions. She's received her Bachelor of Science degree from the University of Houston and is a certified professional service marketer. And that is the dream team up here. And I am going to do what I do best, is be quiet and let them talk to you, and let's have a great night. Thank you for coming.
Thanks, Catherine. On behalf of the team, we want to welcome GE Dunn, our construction partner. We're glad to have them able to join us now that they're under contract. They're a great addition. They made a wonderful presentation when they were interviewed, and the design team was very, very impressed with both their resume and their interest and dedication to the project. And we're all looking forward to working with them. We do want to thank all of you for coming to join us, and also thank those online who are taking time to join us as well. I'm just going to run quickly through our agenda and sort of talk about what we covered in the first two sessions, because we presume there are always a few folks who haven't been in all three sessions, and we want to make sure that everyone understands, what we've been through, where we've been, and before we get to where we're going. So we're going to talk about a review of the first two meetings, and in particular the questions that we heard. We're not going to go over everything in detail, because all of the questions and all the answers that the panel gave to those questions is all available on the Classic Center website. So if anybody wants to do a deeper dive on anything that's been covered previously, that's all available online. So we won't waste everybody's time going over all that again. We're going to talk about some further development of the design that was presented in the last session in response to some of the comments that have been made by the user group, as well as folks we've heard from in the community here and online. We're going to talk about specific initiatives that the team is going to be making to see that the development positively impacts the community. And we're going to talk some about how we're going to manage logistics during construction to minimize any adverse impact on the area. And then finally, we're going to talk about where we go from here. What's the review and approval process going to be for the design going forward, and to get us to actually underway with doing the construction documents. And then, of course, at the end, the majority of the time is going to be reserved for you to ask us questions. So in the first few sessions, we talked about the program for the development, how the development came to be, and the impact that it's going to have on the community. This is an estimate of the activities that would be here. We're looking at eventually around 300 event days with 125 additional events. That is additional to what takes place at the Classic Center now. And then we talked some about the context, where the arena is, how it's impacting the area around it, and some of the spin-off developments that are taking place as part of this investment in the community. And we talked about the impact on traffic and parking, where people are going to park, how folks get to the facility and how much traffic we anticipate. And then we talked about pedestrian access, how we're going to plug into the existing pedestrian network, and in particular, how we intend to use this elevated network of plazas that's going to be built to actually improve access from downtown through the Classic Center site and down to the Firefly Trail and the river area. And then we talked about the facility itself and the types of events that we're going to host and why it is the way that it is. And one of the main form generators is hockey, because the size of the ice basically dictates the ideal size of the bowl and the seating configuration for the facility. So the ice and the dasher boards really kind of set the perimeter for your floor in the full house arrangement. And then we talked some about the importance of music, not only just the local Athens music scene, but the intention here to host a lot of concert events, and how that really sort of pushes us in the direction of having a symmetrical bowl arrangement, because that's really the best arrangement to get the maximum number of seats when you have an end stage arrangement. So in this configuration, we're looking at a little less than 8,000 seats. For hockey, somewhere around 6,000. And so this gives you an impression of the maximum seating capacity for a music event. And then at each of the previous sessions, we talked some about sustainability and some of the initiatives that we're taking to address sustainability issues. In particular, working with an outside vendor to do an installation of solar panels in the Classic Center. So we've been recording all the questions that have been asked during the previous sessions. And the ones that are in bold at the top are the ones from the second session, and the others were asked in the first session. And as I mentioned, all these have been addressed in the previous sessions, but there are certain themes that sort of have evolved as a result of the discussions, and we wanted to address those things in more detail tonight. The questions really fell into 4 buckets, if you will. The first was about community impact, both economic and social, and that's been a very big concern and something we want to do a little bit of a deeper dive into today. There were some questions about the financial structure of the project, which is a combination of private development money and SPLOST money. And a number of questions about, just sort of the technical aspects of building this arena, the loading space, how's the ice going to be managed, what sort of events can we host, that sort of thing. And finally, of course, there's a great deal of interest in the design. And so we are going to be showing you a new design tonight based on comments that we've gotten previously. And we're going to have Dawn address those for us. So I'm going to hand it off to you.
So a number of questions came up, and since we met, we've worked on a new design, but since we have some new people here, I'm going to quickly show you what we had last time. So last time we presented 2 different designs. The first, and in some ways, very different concepts. The first was to think of the building, the middle of the building, as a traditional brick building, kind of a warehousey building. And then we add to it with darker metal and darker steel. This is a view from the southeast, and it's almost a view from where the future parking garage would be. There's going to be an 800 space parking garage across Hickory. So this would be like you're on the 3rd level of the garage looking out. The area to the left here is where the major entry will be at the southwest corner and over by the Foundry building, which is just east of here. What you're seeing is this is a very tall building because, well, not very tall, but it's a little higher than you would normally do for an arena this size because we have a steep site. So the goal would be, what we're trying to do is bring people, the vast majority of them, in at where this upper level is right here. This is the concourse level, and we have a suite level above it. So the majority of people will be coming from the southwest, which just links into this building here at the Classic Center. People will come across a bridge and enter at the southeast as well. So those are the two major entries. We also have another one in the northwest. So what this building shows is more of a traditional building, warehousey brick with darker steel additions to that. And someone had asked, do we have a view from the concourse and the suite level out to the river? And the answer is yes. In all of these schemes, there's a lot of glass, but you can also see there's shading to keep the sun off all of this glass, as we talked about sustainability issues. So this was one look we came up with from the southeast. The other idea is the big graphic panels is we're talking about having the Georgia Music Collective here, which some people think of as the Hall of Fame. So we could have movable panels, we could have art, that's all to be determined, but that's the idea of what you're seeing with these big panels. So this is the view from the southeast. This was the view from the southwest. As you go by the Foundry building, which would be over here, people come across the parking garage that's just east of us here, would be directly behind us in this view, and this would be the main southwest entry. But again, from this viewpoint, you're up in the air because you're on this bridge system that will be put over the parking lot below. So this is the brick scheme with dark steel. The other one we showed was a takeoff of very classic white buildings. And what you see here, again, is this same walkway at the concourse level, steel and glass, but these are white metal panels. And the idea was to make this building more like a canvas and make it brighter. So that was the southeast, same view, southeast view, same glass looking out a little more horizontal. And this was then the view from the southwest entry, again, where you come through entry here. And what you're seeing here is, in addition to visually warm the white up, we have wood on the soffits because it's a very traditional Georgia material. You are one of the largest suppliers and manufacturer of wood in the country or in North America. So again, of a white look. And so after our meeting, we also heard from a few people said, some like the contemporary, some like the brick. When we left our meeting, I would say the brick was a little favored in the room. The white scheme, people also said they liked it. And since we've done the survey online, it's pretty even between it. So then our client group, Paul and the client group, asked us to say, could we look at a new version that takes the idea of the contemporary building, but probably calms it down just a bit? And so what you're seeing here is a version where we have more of, again, the colonnade below. This is more of a silver gray version of it. And again, the artwork or panels could change on depending on what we finally develop. For those of you who are new to the process and didn't see it, this one shows it. There is a train going on, existing train line. We're building the concourse over the train line, so the train will still be able to go through. We're not cutting it off with this building, and then the concourse is above it. But this is more of a silvery gray building, and again, a bunch of glass with overhanging shading devices looking out down to the river. And the goal, as Chuck said, is people will be walking across at this concourse level. They're going to go to the garage, and at the garage is where they'll see the elevators and stair down that are going to get them a lot closer vertically to the river than is possible now. Right now, the bridge crosses to the transit station. We'll be going even further and then further down towards the river. So this is a silvery gray version. And then finally, you get to see, again, similar entrance with silver and gray, a little more subdued than the white, but very similar, and very contemporary building, with the idea that we're going to link in on the left to the existing Foundry building. But this is an approach, and early on, City Commission and County Commission had seen a version that was a little more contemporary. So we want to give them that option as well and get your input on all three. And now we're going to turn it over to the next one and talk about some of the commitment to the town and what's going to happen when this building is finished.
Great, thank you, Don. The one part Don left out as he was going through that was, I remember, I think it was Mark that asked, can we ever put stone of some kind down on the bottom? And so Don did incorporate a very limited amount of stone on the east side and the south side of the building. So we would be bringing a little Elberton granite, hopefully, price being the right point, but some kind of stone down on that lower level to round that out. And thank you for turning it over. I did want to speak a little bit about the arena. Certainly what's inside the building is really important to me and to my staff to be able to do those events, because it's those events that we do that bring people to Athens from all over. And when that happens, it creates opportunity. And that opportunity is really pretty awesome. As an example, this building pre-COVID was generating about $50 million to this downtown and to the Athens area. Since we've built this building, we've seen countless number of new hotels develop, new restaurants have developed, new retail has emerged. It really helps keep this downtown, which is the jewel of Athens, alive and doing well. But there's more that we can do. Last two meetings, we talked about paying a living wage, and there is a commitment to our paying that living wage. But there's a greater commitment, and I just wanted to take a minute and talk about that. I've been here for 25 years, and I can't tell you the number of employees that I've watched enter the building at one level, and then they go back to get additional education. Now, that might be through our Bread for Life program for people who have absolutely no formal education. Maybe they never finished high school, but they've come into our building and they want to grow. They want to do more. So we train them through Bread for Life. And then we've actually watched those individuals flourish inside the building, grow in terms of what they do inside of the building. And then they go back to our local community college. And many of you don't know, but we started the hospitality program at Athens Technical College almost 20 years ago now. And then a couple years ago, we actually started the Piedmont College program, which is a 4-year degree program in their business curriculum. And when you really think about somebody who has come into the building, worked their way up, advanced through, it's really impressive that they can then go and walk out with a 4-year business degree in the hospitality management area. And what's so great about that to me is those skills that they learn are very transferable. And so this is not a job opportunity. This is a career opportunity. I wanted to take a minute and really explain a bit more about that as well. In terms of career opportunity, yes, they can grow inside the building. Certainly they can work in our downtown. But with the partners that we're bringing in with an arena of this caliber, we're going to be teaching people how to go into the IATSE stagehand union and ultimately how to become riggers. And you might be very aware that the movie industry in Atlanta right now is booming. And so those riggers are in super high demand. They are making $100,000 a year. And that education can happen right here inside the building. And so as we look at the arena, the Classic Center, the Performing Arts Theater, we're really seeing that as a total learning lab that really helps hand in glove with the educational institutions that are right here in our community. But there's other partners like Levy Restaurants. We've had Chris Hawk, who was a person that bounced around downtown as a cook, came into our building. He eventually became our sous chef. He left here and became the executive chef at a ski resort. And today he is running a building in Cleveland, Ohio. So those connections with companies like Oakview Group and Levy and all of those firms can really take you down this road to anywhere you want to go. within the hospitality industry, and it opens up a lot of opportunity. So this arena is going to certainly provide economic impact. The events that we all want to see and be a part of here in this community, it'll allow us to grow the music industry in Athens, expose the Music Hall of Fame. But to me, one of the most important things is that workforce development. And the final bit of this is to talk about our own career academy. Many people don't know what our little career academy is doing as a part of Clark County school system, but I would encourage all of you to go see what they're doing. It's really super impressive. High school students are able to graduate with their degree, but also walk out with 30, 40, 50 college credits in a chosen pathway. And so the Classic Center is working hand in glove with them to start a hospitality pathway, because we know those jobs are here, they're here to stay, and they're jobs that lead to very promising careers down the road. So thanks for giving me a minute.
Good evening. Thanks, Paul. And I think, again, Lee Jarbo with J.E. Dunn Construction. And, one of the things that's at the heart of what we do is giving back. And I think I kind of play the role of the community ambassador for us. And we've talked with Paul and his group, and we've supported some of the initiatives that he talked about with Bread for Life and the Classic Center Cultural Foundation. But one of the things that we want to continue to do is build upon that and support a lot of the programs that Paul talked about, so that we can expand, not only building y'all a great building, but building and improving the community as a whole. And so we'll be a part of doing some of those types of things. And then the key is really going to be, during construction, how can we put the community to work? How can we put some of the small businesses that are trade partners and things, drywall, electricians, and get them involved in the community? And so we have done a lot of work at UGA. We've been on that campus, and we've started with this. If you look at the map, it kind of shows in our database that we have just from working here, trade partners that we have, and then how it can grow, from here locally and out. There are some specialty scopes of work that we will need to bring in specific folks for, but there's a lot of opportunity here to put the community work, and that's one of the things that we are definitely committed to doing. And we do an outreach plan. Fred will talk a little bit more about that, but I'm engaged in how do we set up meetings? How do we make sure the community knows about the opportunities? And we'll be definitely doing some additional outreach in that regard to bring them on and let them know where they can work.
Thanks. I'm going to talk a little bit more about this outreach event. As all those years of doing pre-construction pricing that we mentioned in our introductions, I know how best value can be attained by utilizing trade partners and resources that are most closely to the job site itself. So it's key to us, in order to maximize the program we're going to include for our budget, to make sure that we are really sourcing those local contractors. And so we do this a lot in a lot of our projects, even some that are in Atlanta, especially when they're in new areas though, where we have these outreach events. We usually have multiple outreach events before the project starts to make sure that we can communicate the project to trade partners, educate them on what's required, and get the maximum participation we can. So a couple things that we do. First, we want to communicate what type of job it is. What are those different scopes that are going to be included in the project, so you can know if you're a trade partner that does something specific, whether your scope is included in the job or not. Then we talk about the size of those values of those scopes, so you can know if it's in the capacity that your company has. Then we talk about how J-Dun's going to plan to contract those, how we break down those contracts. There are some things that often are contracted through another subcontractor and not directly to J-Dun. At those times, we will have partnering sessions with larger contractors and smaller contractors to make sure that we're maximizing that communication as well. And lastly, we want to make sure that you understand how to do business with J.E. Dunn, and so what our requirements are, such as insurance or bonding, things like that. How do you get registered in our system and all of those things? So those are some key things that we're going to do in those outreach events. We'll probably have, one or two of those events before the job starts, as I said. We'll schedule those two here shortly. But that's how we're going to make sure we're maximizing the participation and engagement. So really quickly, I want to touch on the logistics plan. Now, we are definitely in the early stages of this, and one of the things we like to do is make sure we get our entire team to weigh in on the logistics and make sure it works for everyone. But some key things that we want to focus on as we put together this plan, and it's really minimizing disruption and being a good neighbor. So one way we're going to minimize disruption is by keeping our construction inside of the fence. So you'll see we have a fence going around the job site, and we want to make sure that all of our noise, dust, materials, and manpower stay inside that fence and don't wander out. That's a key thing to make sure we're controlling the site and being a good neighbor. So we're going to work diligently to make sure we are able to do that. The second thing that fence is going to do is make sure we keep the public out. Where we have maybe key sidewalks, pathways, thoroughfares, we want to make sure we provide the proper signage to make sure that people walking down the street know where to go so they avoid our site. Where we have gates where we might have trucks entering the site or exiting, we got to have a man there to make sure that he's watching for pedestrian traffic or other cars before our trucks are going in and out of the job site as well. Another key thing that we'll do is being a good neighbor while we're in transit between our job site and wherever we're coming from. So there's no space on site for our workers to park. They're going to have to park off site and likely take a shuttle bus to the job site. So we'll make sure we coordinate where that area of parking is so they're not parking just everywhere random. Make sure that we have a plan for that shuttle and make sure that those guys get to the job site in a proper way. Secondly, we have a lot of trucks that are going in and out of the job site. We're going to have a haul route that's published that everyone's going to understand and know about where those trucks are driving to and from. And that's a great way to make sure that you guys can tell us if we have trucks that are going the wrong way. They need to be going down a specific haul route to avoid disruption to the surrounding areas. And then lastly, making sure it's more of an on-time delivery of our materials. We do a lot of work downtown where we don't have laydown on sites similar to this one. The way to do that is to stage our material in trucks at a location off-site. We have a warehouse in Winder down the road, which is be a great location. We schedule those deliveries so they come at the proper time and they show up just as needed. So they're not lined up in the road or dropping material in the road or anything like that. They come when they're supposed to. And the last key way we're going to make sure we're being a good neighbor on this job site is by having the proper communication, not just with the Classic Center and our team, but with the entire community. We'll have a project website that'll talk about those upcoming events. We're going to be coordinating with events that are happening in Athens, in the Classic Center, to make sure that we know when our work hours should change to better accommodate things that are going on. And we'll hold meetings just like this to make sure that we're keeping everyone up to speed on construction activities that are happening. So that's a high-level plan of our logistics at this point with what we know. And let me know if you have questions.
Well, as Catherine said at the start of this, what an exciting team, what a first-class, uber-talented team we have. I think you get a sense of that. It's exciting to be part of this team. But also, as Catherine said, having done projects, managed a bunch of projects through over 35 years of doing this, these are the types of projects that I get personally excited about. Not because we're going to go build some great project, which we are going to do, but because a project like this is going to have such an incredible impact on Athens, Clark County, and the people and the community. I think you get a sense of that. We're not just building an arena. We're building a project that will have a tremendous impact for many years to come, and it's so exciting to be part of that. There is a process that we're going through, and I want to talk just briefly about what that is. It's a formal process. There are two primary steps along the way where we take the project to the mayor and commission and ask for their approval to advance to the next step. And tomorrow night is a work session where the mayor and commission will receive information on what's called the project concept. That's basically an overview description of the project. It's much of what you've seen here tonight. It describes generally what the arena will do and include and accomplish. And so that project concept is the first step. That will happen, as I said, tomorrow night. There's also a presentation to the SPLOST Oversight Committee of that project concept. Their role is largely to confirm that what we're planning in the project concept is consistent with what the voters and citizens approved in the referendum. So we are, in fact, planning and building the arena that everybody voted to move forward with. So that happens on May 19th. And then on June 1st, there's the formal mayor and commission meeting where the project concept would hopefully be approved for us to move forward. And then the next step, I mentioned there are two really approval steps for the mayor and commission. One is the project concept, where they'll review in these 2 dates, and then the schematic design. So there will be another step likely in July or August, where we will go back to the mayor and commission for another approval of largely what you're seeing here based on the feedback that we've received from these sessions. So I want to say thank you again for being part of this, being part of an exciting project like this. We look forward to continued interaction and input and really delivery of an incredibly successful project that will benefit Athens for years to come. Catherine?
All right, this is the time you've been waiting for, right? I'd love to give you all an opportunity to ask any questions that you have, comments, concerns, ideas. And I'm going to hold the mic for you so you don't have to be nervous around it. I'll hold it for you. If you just raise your hand, I'm going to come on over to you and give you a chance to address the group. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Yes, ma'am. Would you mind telling us who you are too, just so we know?
Was I supposed to stand up too? Oh, okay. Okay. So, hi, Carol Myers, Commissioner, District 8. I came in a few minutes late. Did you guys talk about sustainability efforts at the beginning of this? Okay, which I may have, I'll go back and listen to that again, but I know I've asked about it and it may have covered some of the things that I've learned already. I just was, hearing what Paul was talking about, the wonderful work you guys have done with Athens Tech and the hotel management. And I assume that you talked about that solar panel procurement plan. Is that right?
I did not.
Oh,
I did not talk about that specifically. What we did was just give an overview that we do plan to put solar panels on the roof of this building, as well as on the roof of the arena itself. And we're going to explore the possibility of putting them on top of the parking deck as well. So
well, I would love, I know there's some people here in the audience who've been working really hard on gathering information and proposal on the green jobs pipeline here in the community. You're talking about having this massive project here with a focus on sustainability. And you've already had this partnership with Athens Tech with the hotel management. They have a photovoltaic systems technician program, and it would be really wonderful to somehow see that integrated with some of the ideas of the community on the green jobs pipeline. And I'm assuming as well there'll be federal funds from the Biden administration on job development that by the time we get close to doing that, it could all hook up together and we could really serve the community here. So that's one of the things I'm going to be pushing for as well.
it's a great idea. We'll definitely look into that.
Thank you. Hi, can you tell us your name?
Yes, hi, my name is Nene Onyaha Clayton, and I am a co-chair of the Green Jobs Pipeline that Dr. Myers mentioned. And because equity will not come about by default, I think we all know that, we'd like to focus on equitable jobs creation related to the worker development plans that you have and link that to the Green Jobs Pipeline that we have been building in Athens for the past few years. So we'd like to focus. I have a question related to renewable energy construction and maintenance jobs, which are classed as allied trades. The building construction work and energy efficiency upgrades, such as the solar panels that you want to put up, utilize a labor force that actually enjoys few worker protections right now, wage theft being a common practice by general and subcontractors from workers. Now, the request from the Green Jobs Pipeline is simple. Mr. Paul Kramer, would you commit to equitable labor standards for all your workers and commit to only working with general contractors that have a written commitment to equitable labor standards for their workers? And this, by equitable labor standards, we mean what you've already committed to, living wages, also benefits, also local hire. And when we talk about local hire, we ensure to include proportional amounts of marginalized communities, which we at the Green Jobs Pipeline actively work to engage and link up to opportunities coming up in the green job sector. If you need a breakdown of exactly what these are, we would be happy to provide you with research material. And I believe that Mr. Fred from GE Dunn said that there will be scheduled events to maximize participation and engagement. So we in our coalition will be there to learn, inform, educate the community about the commitments, priorities, and benefits of a workforce built on the principles of real equity and inclusivity. So we just want to know, how far will you go to actually operationalizing your commitment to equitable labor standards, sir?
Thank you.
Yeah, I think in many ways we've already committed to many of the things that you're talking about. I'd love to see the detail of the additional things that maybe I'm not as familiar with. But I think when you find out what we've already committed to, both in terms of energy and being sustainable, many people may not know, but we've invested, I think it's $1.5 million over the last couple of years to make this building more sustainable and maximize its sustainability and lower our overall energy usage.
Sure, sir. I appreciate that. What I'm focused now is on the supply chain, making sure that, you know, the workers that you use, the general contractors that you use are also committed to, high standards. Thank you.
Well, yes, and I'll let J.E. Dunn speak more directly to that, but one of the reasons I will tell you that the user group who picked J.E. Dunn picked them largely because of exactly what you're talking about. And in their presentation, they did such a good job talking about how they'll interact with the local community and how they have a past track record of having done that. And I think they are an outstanding company that do exactly that kind of thing on every job that they go to. So I'll let them speak more directly to how they do that.
No. That's on. Now it's on. Sorry. Yeah, that's a very obviously a complex question, and there's no easy solution to that. So one of the things that can be done is our team can create a kind of a set of goals that we can publish along with our bids, bid invites to ask for. I would be hesitant to say that I can go so far as demanding certain things, but I do think that we can definitely publish the team's goals and desires as a part of our construction standards or documents, and that can easily be a part of it.
How do we find out about those?
Just to let everybody hear you.
Sorry about that. Thank you. How do we find out about the events that are coming up so that we can be there, please?
I'm not 100% sure. We'll do something similar to the communication you've already received. I don't want to duplicate the wheel or anything, so we'll make sure that it's going through the proper channels and that everybody knows it. Usually, it's put in the local publication like newspapers and online resources and things like that.
Thank you for the great questions. Yes, sir.
Broderick Flanagan. How you doing, everyone? Paul, everybody. Yeah, I just want to reiterate what she was speaking to with some of the green jobs and jobs in general. The question I asked last time at the last event was about the amount of the wages, because if you go by the MIT calculator, which is what the local government uses, because that was part of the study that was done, right? That calculation takes in things like cost of living, wages in the surrounding areas and things of that nature. And so when we talk about livable wage, it's important to put that in proper context, right? I make about $15 an hour. I don't mind sharing my salary, what I make. I'm living pretty okay on that. I don't have any kids living in my household though. And so when I talk to young mothers, Mother's Day was just yesterday. When I talk to young mothers, some of which work here in this space, thinking about somebody had to set up this room before we got here, right? They were paid an hourly wage, right? I don't know what the entry level employment is here at this great center, but thinking about a young mother with 2 kids, she can't feed her family off of $11 an hour and pay her rent, pay all her utilities and all of that. And so when we talk about equitable jobs, we talk about prevailing wages. That is what we're speaking about. I'm familiar with the Bread for Life program. It's a great program. Does it have capacity though? How many people is it reaching? And is it putting people on that track immediately? Because if we expect people to be able to climb the ladder, the social ladder, we know as a society, it doesn't work the same for everybody. People that I grew up with and people I went to high school with aren't able to go into that program. Like a certain few will be able to. Dr. W.E.B. Du Bois's work speaks to that, the talented 10th, right? Assimilation. There are a certain percentage of people that are able to go through that system and to advance in those ways. But what about the people who aren't able to do that? And so that's what the Green Jobs Pipeline is about, paying prevailing wages. I know certain construction industries in certain areas, they have certain labor standards in California and New York. It's a lot of larger cities and major cities, but that's where we're gleaming a lot of this information from for the work that we're putting together. Making sure that we take care of the workers, the labor, making sure that in those bid specs, that we are making sure as it trickles down to the subcontractors from the GC, the general contractor, that we're putting enough resources in that pot of money so that they don't have to pinch money from the labor. I know cost of materials is going up in the construction industry as well. That figures into how you build your budget. I get all of that. And to employ people, it costs a lot of money. If you have somebody at a $30,000 salary, that's not all the company is paying. They're paying state taxes, they're paying benefits, into all kind of other things of that nature. What we're asking though is for you to consider that for people that are living in persistent poverty in these communities, like immediately, without having to ascend or get more education.
Thank you.
So if I can address that, look, I don't want to say we're going to be the beginning of all and the end of all, because that's not the truth. And I wish we could afford in Clark County to pay even higher wages than what we've committed to paying. I truly do. But there is a reality of trying to balance things out. And I think this building is a good example of that balancing things out. Well, I know you don't, but I want to share. Just let me say one thing, and I'll let you say as much as you want. But the reality here, right, is that we have a number of things we're asked to do all at the same time. We want to put money back in the building so we can be more sustainable, right? That money has to come from somewhere. That comes from the events that we do in the building. And we want to pay our staff. That money has to come from somewhere. That comes from the events that we do in the building. Unlike most buildings, public buildings that are out there, we have never gone back to Athens, Clark County government and said, we need more money to operate, ever. If Clark County wants to give us more money to pay higher wages, then we'd be delighted to do that. But there is an economics of scale that has to be balanced. If you have a building that's run down and looks terrible and you've never put any money back into it, or if you're not putting money back in to be sustainable and your energy costs start to go outrageously high, then all that does is defeat what you're able to give back to the employees. But the part that I feel great about our employees is, yes, we are committed to paying that living wage going forward, A. B, we have done everything that any employer could possibly do to offer a leg up for additional education so people can advance themselves. And finally, we've raised a pot of money to give people scholarships so they can further their education and continue to go down the road. And I defy you to find any other building, public building in this state that has done more than what we've done historically. We're with you, Broderick. We want exactly the same thing that you want, but I can't sit here and say, sure, we're going to pay X amount of dollars. We're committing to paying the living wage. That we've done. And we're committed to doing what you're asking us to do with hiring a GC that's going to really make sure that we put this local community to work. And we're going to give everybody every chance that is practical. That I can promise you.
I just think we have two different ideas of what's practical, and that's okay. I get that, but in the presentation you talked about how many millions is generated, right? And
It does.
I'm sure the arena is going to generate millions upon millions.
But let me explain that too, because I think it's super important, right? The millions that it generates, it doesn't generate to the Classic Center. It doesn't generate it even to Clark County. It generates the opportunity for private businesses to come in and earn money here in this building, in this community. And that's what has led to the addition of hotels and restaurants and shopping centers and jobs that get created because of that.
We can talk more offline, but yeah, I get all of that, but all wrapped up in that same scenario you just painted is labor. Labor runs the hotels, labor runs this space. Labor is an essential part of people's lives.
It is. But let me tell you, I started in this industry as a dishwasher. At 14, I would hitchhike to work and I would hitchhike home from work. And I was making at that time, I think it was like $3 an hour. But that job led to a busboy job, that led to a bartender job, that led to a waiter job, that led to a manager job, and so on. And that pathway is available to everyone in this community. Sure, but I don't think it's got to be everyone becomes a CEO, but there's a lot of other opportunities that are wonderful jobs that people can really enjoy and raise a great family on.
And I just want to interject for just one moment. I forgot, because they're not here, the people who are live streaming, and there's a bunch of people who also have questions too. So I want to make sure everyone gets a chance to speak, and we're not going to go till you're all done. So know that. You're welcome. Yes, sir. Here you go.
All right, we have a question from Patrina Huff online, who's asking, where exactly will the parking be? 800 spots seems like a lot. I think that was addressed, maybe Don, when you were mentioning the location. If you want to maybe elaborate a little more.
Is this on?
It's on.
Oh, it is on? Okay. Okay, great. Yeah, so basically, I think everyone knows there's an existing parking garage directly east of this building, so that's all still going to be there. And the idea is that so we'll go across Foundry and then Hickory, and the goal is to do an 800 space garage directly across from the transit center. So when you saw that bridge going across, that would be the north side of the garage. And mostly people will be coming off of Hickory Street to get in and out of there. But I think in the last time when we presented our ways, the goal generally when you do a downtown arena, and this is at the edge of downtown, but it's still downtown, is to get people parking on the street in all of the garages, not just one garage. So we're just adding to the parking supply that's already here in downtown. But a lot of people will just park out here through downtown and the main garages, which again, have availability at night and on the weekends, and that'll be dispersed. So, but the goal is the 800 garage is kind of directly across Hickory, just southeast of where we're putting the arena.
I think I do need to say, if this is on, I do need to say that only 300 of those 800 will be directly related to this project. The other 500 are going to be a part of a parking deck that is built by Athens Clarke County government.
Anyone else? Question, comment? Yes, ma'am. If you'll just tell us your name, please.
Sure. My name is Maureen Baker. The sports and entertainment sound wonderful, but I realize that this space would be attractive for large conventions. And I've asked before about how many loading docks, which is critical for a large convention that's going to generate multiple room nights and economic impact. I'd just like to be sure conventions are kept in the forefront.
Yes, we can't actually fulfill the promises that have been made without the conventions. And that's also why we talked about in one of the earlier presentations, the direct connection to the convention center is so important. Folks may use the arena as their general session, but they'll want to use the rest of the convention center as breakout space and food and beverage and break areas and the like. Thanks for asking the question. By the way, there's 6 loading docks.
And there's also a drive-in ramp.
And a direct drive-on access ramp, yes.
To get directly to the floor, convention floor.
We have a question over here from Pat Hale.
Okay, my question is in reference to the arena. And I guess I wanted to know if we need queuing lanes to make sure that our buses can exit and enter inside the, when this traffic occurs at that arena, where the traffic's going to be coming out of that parking deck. And I wanted to know, was that included in the initial design? And if not, is there a plan for the cost of that?
Which part?
You want me? Department, am I right?
Yes, I am.
Right.
Oh, okay.
So the question is, will there be a queuing lane in Hickory Street
Yeah.
that would help facilitate the trucks coming in and out a little bit easier, as well as the buses?
Exactly.
And yes, we've talked about adding a 3rd lane there, a turn lane, that I think will make everything much easier. And I think what's been talked about generally, this project does not have that funding in it. But I believe that mayor and commission have established a tax allocation district in this area. And I think that together we can work to make sure that that turn lane does go in. Because I agree, I think that's going to be needed as we go forward.
Definitely. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat. Any other, yes, just one moment. You just let us know your name, please.
Sure. Hi, Mark Woods. I had a chance to review in detail the plans as they exist so far, thanks to Mr. Kramer and Danny Bryant. And I did want to say that as a production professional for about 27 years, I'm very impressed with the attention to detail in areas such as the loading dock, the green rooms, the truck rodeo, everything that's going to affect the people who actually do the labor to bring in and bring out these shows and work them while they're going on. I was pleasantly surprised to find that there were only minor suggestions that I had to tweak things here and there. I do prefer the version of the floor plan in the truck rodeo that includes the space for the 3 buses, just so that that's on record. But I want to let all of my other colleagues in the community know on record that you guys and your staff and management at the Classic Center have their fingers on the pulse of what's going to be necessary for those people to be able to do their jobs efficiently and safely. I love the number of truck loading docks. I love the rigging considerations, all of those kind of details, where the power is located, where the storage for dead cases will be. All that kind of stuff has been considered by you or your staff, and you can tell by those drawings. And I met with Danny for about an hour or so, and we went through, and he was able to show me all, I said, well, what about this? He said, oh, well, yeah, we've planned for that. That's great. There's hundreds of people who every year and for the next 50 years or maybe 100 are going to be working in that building. And if they don't have to curse your names because of some awkward hallway or narrow doorway or something like that, then what you're doing is a success in my eyes. I know I look at it from a completely different perspective than the public might, or upper management might, where the public, how the doorways look and what the seating is like and all this kind of stuff. I'm more interested in the back hallways and the loading docks and all that. So I just want to go on record for any of my colleagues in town who are concerned about any of those things. Those are being addressed very well, to my satisfaction, certainly. So thank you,
Mark.
guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm just following up on that. Makes me think how those details, attention to those details, will make have a big impact on artists and shows that are interested in coming here, because they want to come to a place where the acoustics are good, where the equipment's good, we're getting through the hallways is good. And I'm using that as a segue, of course, to the energy efficiency as well, because I actually learned from the Classic City staff, the Classic Center staff and such, that artists and performers are now asking about such things as energy efficiency, sustainability, and I'm sure they're also probably asking about wages as well, as there's just more of awareness in that the impact that entertainers and artists can have by asking about these requirements. So I'm glad you brought that up. And I did have a question from the audience through my online presence here, and that was whether or not we had an energy efficiency target, and maybe the construction company a management system could address this. So if you have a energy efficiency target, or we'll be attempting to set one.
Yeah, so basically what we're looking at, again, we're at the very first conceptual phase, so we got to get approval. So what we're looking at, generally speaking, is insulating the building as much as possible to keep the heat out and the cold out in the winter. As I said, all of the shading, like if you saw all three schemes, the south side, which is the worst part, we're keeping the sun out of that. We have shading over all the east windows. Again, what we're trying to do is keep the view out, but the sun off the windows. Obviously, glass has a lower insulation rate than the insulated walls. So we're looking at that very carefully, but we don't want this just be a solid building. It's got to be a community building. We're also looking at all of the energy efficient systems inside the control system. Arenas are different than other buildings in that probably the ice will be being made all year round. So that keeps it cool. So generally it's only when the events come in that basically you kind of keep the building going. You'll have a bunch of small events, like someone mentioned conventions. So you're going to have a bunch of smaller events in that building, like lunches on the concourse. But it's only when you get a lot of people, 6,000 to 8,000 people in there, that it goes into a different mode. So when, for instance, even if it's the cold winter, that crowd will heat up the arena right away. So we design all of our energy systems specifically to do that and to try to be super energy efficient. And then with the ice, we look at recirculating some of that heat off the ice as you're making it. So there's a number of systems we're doing it. And we have very sophisticated control systems. The good news is that in the last few years now, with everything being LED lighting, and arenas just by their nature are so much more efficient because of the LED. Before, you used to have non-LED lights, you'd have theater lighting, you had big sports lighting, and now it's all super efficient because it's all LED. So compared to where we were 5 years ago, we're way better off. And then on top of all of that, then we look at the solar on the roof to augment the systems, both on, as Paul said, on this existing building, the new arena, as well as the potential of the parking garage.
But if I can, because I think I know where she's, the question she's asking, we're also, as a SPLOST project, we're required at a minimum to be a LEED certified building. So all of the specifics that go to that, maybe you could speak a little to that.
Yeah, so in addition, as you know, because you're asking the question, LEED is far more than just energy efficiency. There's the amount of daylighting, there's the quality of the air, there's the construction process of making sure all the air is clean. So we're doing all of that, and we've kind of done our initial kind of walkthrough on LEED, and the county requires just certification. We're well into silver, and we're looking at different options. I don't want to commit higher than that, but we are looking to go higher than that. But again, what we've got to do now that we have JE done, which we just recently got added to our team, now we can go over and say, what are these things? What is the impact on the building, and do they have any impact on cost? But generally speaking, for arenas to do one of these, we're going to be easily LEED certification, if not more, silver or higher.
Okay.
So the mechanical stuff. So are you saying something actually happens with the ice in the summer that somehow it's used to cool air and circulate
So
it,
there's
or-
there's always options on the ice, because again, you can use, there are few things. When you're making the ice, there's waste heat. So you can use that waste heat for other areas when you're making it or during the winter. Then if you ever, in the summer, you don't, most buildings will melt their ice during the summer if the hockey season is gone. So at the very least, the one thing you can do if you ever want to do it, you can turn on the floor. The floor is like one big cold radiator if you ever want to turn it on in the summer. So just think of that. If you're standing on, it's like a tile in the summer. When you stand on if you have tile in the bathroom, it's often cooler than the wood floor or whatever. So you could do that as well. So, but all of these buildings now have very sophisticated control systems and energy efficiency systems. So you can be like from a laptop, killing the lights, getting them off through the building. It's just way more sophisticated than it used to be.
Thank you. And your name?
My name is Robin Babecca. I'm the skating teacher here when the ice is up inside or outside. Danny Bryant is my wonderful boss that I get to be under. I had a question and I had some information. The question first is, are you doing a clean ice system? Which is basically a system, and this was for Paul, and this is from Mr. Call, am I saying it correctly? It's just some ideas, and it's cost effective, that getting the water, making sure that the water is clean and not having any impurities in it, and all that makes much better ice.
Yes.
Us of us that are figure skaters, especially since if in the future you want to try to get Disney on Ice to come.
Yep.
All of us skaters know what places had good ice and what places had terrible ice, and we remember it, And I'm sure you want to have wonderful ice, and it's very important. I'm probably the most concerned about the quality of the ice since that's what I do. It's just something that, in the forefront of my mind of putting a system like that in now in the beginning of construction.
Yeah, generally we have. So what we usually do, we go through the process and we ask to get a water test. And so what happens is, you can have clean, clear water, but if it has minerals as you're describing, people don't realize it. It just makes for bad ice. It makes for cloudy ice. So we always ask for that. The vast majority of our buildings, we are doing that because the water does have minerals or it's not as good. So we are usually doing that.
Okay, that's fantastic. That's my main concern of everything.
Yep.
We appreciate you being prepared and having handouts. That's great. We've got a question. Sorry. Okay, so there's several people with questions, and
Yeah, she said.
my amazing colleague is pointing the right direction for me.
Hi, I'm Katie Goodrum. I wanted to ask about the parking deck. I questioned adding that many structured parking spaces to downtown, and I wanted to know if that was a done deal. I hope everyone knows a structured parking space costs between $25,000 and $40,000 per space. And to segue to support Roderick's point, this is a massive direct public investment, and I really question that its benefits are going to be very indirect. I think if we're going to have this trickle down promises, we really need guarantees that this kind of public investment is going to result in long-term jobs that can truly bring people out of poverty.
So to answer the first part of the question, yes, the SPLOST passed, I think it was over 70% of the public vote, and it did pass including both the arena and 300 parking spaces. So that is baked into the overall project. As far as the other parking spaces go, I think there is a commitment on behalf of the mayor and commission to build the remaining 500 spaces. But that's really their decision. That's separate and away from this particular project. And as far as the ongoing jobs, yes, I think you'll be amazed at how many sustainable ongoing jobs this project will create, not just here in this building, but here in this building, in the hotels, and in the areas surrounding the building as we go forward. Well, I can only document it based on what we've done with the Classic Center itself. And yes, there are studies that can prove those jobs are there and that they are continuing. But to give you an example, in the building before COVID hit, we had 165 full-time folks that were here in the building. So it started with zero and zero events and grew to that number. And it's been quite remarkable.
Thank you. I'm going to grab the other couple people with their hands up. I think we've got 3 more. Yes, sir. Your name?
Hi, my name is Eric Ziemering, and I'm asking a question for Mason. Mason is a hockey skater, and Mason would like to know, when the new facility opens, will there be an opportunity for the public to skate on the new ice?
Great question.
Absolutely. Yeah, you'll be able to skate on the ice. You'll be able to come and see the events that take place on the ice. You'll be able to come and get to know the ice dogs and probably skate with them as well.
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Hord?
Yes, I'm Kathy Hord, and I've lived in Athens, Georgia for 40 years. And I think Mr. Kramer partially answered the question I have. What are the employment numbers that you anticipate at the arena itself?
Yeah, I think Danny, who will be our general manager, can probably answer that better than I can, because he looks at those numbers every day and knows how many office spaces there are and what's going to happen in there. So I'll turn that over to you.
Yeah, well, it may sound a little backwards to job creation. One of the benefits of this facility being connected is the efficiencies it'll provide. There are certain positions we don't have to duplicate here at the facility, which again allows us to kind of get more bang for our buck, as well as, be able to spread some of that investment to more employees. The building itself will probably be somewhere between, 15 and 20 full-time management staff level employees. Now that's not including, on top of that, your full-time setup and conversion and housekeeping staff. That's not including the Levy staff that is going to be here on any given night. The usher and security, that's going to be another 30, 40, 50 people based on the size of that. And as Chuck mentioned earlier, you're looking at 300 event days. Those are going to be full-time positions of people coming in, or great, auxiliary positions for people who, are looking to bring in extra income as well, given that it is weekend and evening work primarily. With the IATSE stagehands, as we've mentioned before, and Mark can probably speak to this better, but a show that we would bring in, is probably going to have 40, 50 people on a Broadway night already. We've got 66 people coming in for a Broadway show, which again is a different setup than a concert, but it's probably at a minimum equivalent to what we'd be doing. So if that in a roundabout way gets there. Well, I've got it, and it's come up in a couple of things, and Don, maybe you can speak to this as well. Patrina was just following up on her earlier question, mentioning that she'd love to see people taking transit in, and I know that you spoke a little bit about with LEED as well, the benefits of this facility maybe being next to the transit center, if you want to.
Yeah, so when we go through the LEED criteria, again, it's not just, some people think it's all about energy, but it's not. And you get a lot of points for, as I said at the last 2 meetings, for having a downtown arena. It's just more efficient. You're using the resources at here. You have the grid streets that allow the traffic to disperse. But the good news, the best news, I think, about this site that was chosen is it is directly next to a transit center. So you do have the best options of bringing all these buses into this location. And I didn't say that tonight, but again, the idea is even though we are able to enter at the higher level directly at the concourse, where the transit center with its little covered walkway comes out to the north, that is directly next to our southeast lobby down at the lower level. So people will be able to come in there and go up elevators or upstairs to get to the concourse level, or if they're seeing a concert, they can go directly to the floor seats. So the goal is to take advantage of the transit center, take advantage of the downtown grid. The other thing we didn't mention, I think what we're trying to do is, we've talked about it at the last two meetings, the loading dock is going to be on the north and it's going to be accessed from the west. So we are deliberately putting the trucks away from the buses so we have less conflict than we might have otherwise had. So we're separating those two uses and separating all the truck access from the pedestrian access as well, because we are in a downtown area and we want to make it as friendly as possible and not intersect trucks with buses or trucks with pedestrians or bikes. I haven't mentioned bikes, but also this does blend in well with the bike network in Athens. And so that is another thing we're looking at, is bike parking, bike access to all the paths and where people are coming down the roads as well.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Yeah, just one really quick follow-up question that I asked about in the last session. Have you been able to make contact with Weaver D's and some of those other smaller businesses that, you know, surround the area? Because this development will have an impact on them. I don't know if they own their building or not, but that could affect their rent, you know, if the property taxes go up in that space.
So your question was, have we reached out to them?
Right. Since our last meeting, when I asked if you reached out to them, you said you would make contact with them. I was just trying to follow up to see, have you made the contact?
So when we, again, hired J.E. Dunn, part of why the user group selected them is in their presentation, they made a rather large statement that before they start a construction site, they always reach out to all of the neighbors and talk to them about what's going to happen. And I think their commitment to that, together with the way that we're publicizing these public meetings, you can be assured that we'll be reaching out to them and making sure that everybody knows when that access is available to them. I don't know if there's anything more you want to.
I don't know if there's any more to add to that. That's very accurate to what we're going to do.
Thank you.
Hi, so Mark Woods again, and I'll change tack. I don't want to speak as a production professional now. I'll speak as a lifelong resident of Athens and also somebody who's gone to over 500 concerts just for fun over the years. Thank you for including first the granite detailing. I think if you notice on a walk around downtown, you'll see that Elberton granite is kind of all over the place. Steps, building foundations and details, corner stones or keystones, this kind of thing. It wouldn't take very much to bring that theme along, and it's extremely durable material. So pavers, steps, areas that are exposed to drip lines from roof overhangs, these kind of things. And the other thing about that granite is Elberton is one of the largest monument processing centers in the world. They bring granite from all over the world to do that. But what they typically use for monuments and bank buildings and all these kind of things are the very uniform pieces of granite that have no large, what they consider to be flaws in them. That material is cast off into giant piles at their facilities. And I know because I've got 30 tons of it in my yard as planters and walls and fountains and all kind of things. That stone could actually be sourced relatively cheaply, maybe free. They might pay you to take it away, I don't know. But it could be very interesting in that a lot of what they consider flaws are actually geologically and mineralogically interesting formations in that stone called pegmatites or quartz veins, these kind of things that can be very interesting. And they're often used around town, you'll notice, for structures like parking curbs, these kind of things. You'll see a stripe of white through that. That's because it was essentially cast off material there.
Great.
So yeah, I think that's about it there.
Thank you. Other questions? Yes, sir. Alex.
How's it going? I'm Alex with Athens Transit. I was looking at the design, and it showed you're going to have a fencing that goes around the free parking that's located at the transfer center. Is there some type of agreement with the Classic Center where people that are using the that park and route the bus for free actually use the existing parking deck for free parking spaces.
Run that one by me one more time, I'm sorry.
I looked on the drawing, y'all have the fencing going around the existing free parking spaces that we have at the multimodal center that the public utilizes that park and route the buses. And I know during the construction for a 2-year period, those parking spaces are not going to be accessible. So is there any way we can get some type of agreement with the Classic Center to utilize some free parking spaces in the existing deck for the public that uses those
Yes,
spaces?
of course we do that.
Thank you.
Great question. Anything else? Comments, concerns, observations? Yes, ma'am.
Are we going to get to look at the pictures again that you had up earlier of the architectural rendering?
Only if you ask.
Please, please let me see them again.
Sure. Chuck, can you go back? Sorry, they're in a slightly different way. We were, should have put them all 6 together, but we got to toggle.
Did you want to look at the latest one or the?
You want the
earlier
late?
one?
I actually like the latest one.
Yeah.
Okay, so,
Yeah, okay. Okay.
yeah, Catherine went around last meeting and grilled everyone about what they thought. She pulled it out of them as to whether they liked the brick or the white scheme. So this is a third scheme. And again, somewhat similar to the white, but totally different color. So totally different artwork.
I'd love to know your comments, brick, white, gray, any of that would be helpful.
And again, if you don't want to comment tonight, you can always comment online because I believe the comments continue to come in online, but it's always good. We're here. It's always great to hear what you think.
I like this one.
Okay. You could be the sole vote. So you have more clout. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
You're a winner.
And also just follow up on your question too, is y'all, in case you know or don't know, that all of these pictures, all these renditions, all of this is on the Classic Center's website. So if you didn't get to check this out or you want to check it out more, please feel free to go there for information.
And this was the one where I didn't, if you kind of look at it right now, we're just showing the 4-foot granite Elberton base, but again, we're still looking at that. And then it may get taller as Hickory continues to go downhill to the north. That base probably gets a little taller. So you're just seeing this from the southwest corner, but if you were driving down Hickory, the base would be getting taller.
Any other questions, comments, concerns? Okay, well, I'm going to hand it over to Marcus Vest to kind of wrap it up and tell you again what the next steps are. And I just want to thank you personally, each one of you who came here tonight. You came here and spoke for people who couldn't be here, and I appreciate your voice. I appreciate you bringing their voice to this presentation, and all of the great questions you ask. It shows how much you care. It's been an honor to facilitate tonight. Thank you.
I'll just reiterate that there is the Mayor and Commission work session tomorrow night, and then June 1st will be the voting session where the Mayor and Commission will hopefully approve the project concept. And as Catherine said, I also want to thank you very much for your input, for your time tonight, for your contributions. It's going to help us make it an even more successful project than it would be otherwise. So thank you all and have a great evening.
Thank you.